So this is a very interesting session. About 2 years ago, Dr. Kelkar set up the Social Innovation Lab and announced the starting of Social Enterprise Mentorship Program. And to be honest, it took us a while to figure out what exactly we wanted to do in this space and where we were looking to create the maximum value add. And as I said just before the session, there are a lot of people who are doing inspiring ideas in India. You hear about them, you see them on WhatsApp videos, you see them on Facebook, and you go, wow, why is it not happening more? Um, there are lots of people who have created successful enterprises which are doing business worth crores. So that is also a great, exciting story. But what we found out, if you are an enterprise, especially social enterprise, and you have created a product or a service which is going to solve a social problem while being profitable, the biggest problem area happens once you have got the product created, once you have got some trial customer going on. How do you penetrate the market? There are incumbent players, there are perverse incentives, there is entrepreneurs mindset, there are capacity issue. So that's where slowly we started figuring out natural space for PIC social enterprise mentorship program is. So first of all, before I start the program, I want the mentors to stand up so that we can acknowledge them. So I know we have three mentors over here. So Sanjay Kanvinde, S- uh, Girindra Kasmalkar, Anil Kulkarni, and we have one more mentor who's not here with us today, Pramod Atle. Bet- Between the four of them, they decided to start giving their time once a week to the mentee as well as once a week to get together, and they have been doing it continuously now for more than 2 years. So that's amazing dedication on their part. What this has resulted in, 21 for profit social enterprises which are now part of PIC social enterprise mentorship program. The ones which came into our program 2 years ago, some of them were at a revenue of around 4 lakh, 5 lakh, and I'm proud to tell you that some of them are getting closer to 1 crore. One has crossed 3 crores in turnover, and many are on their way. So, along this, while we were charting this journey, we had interesting insights, we had interesting perspectives, and I'm thankful that Sanjay has put together a wonderful session on how CSR can help scale up social enterprises. Remember, we are not talking about incubating, we are not talking about getting an idea and product being made. We are talking about the journey. You made the product, there is a need for the product. From there to getting to your first million in revenue, from there to making about 6 to 6.5 crore revenue, how can CSR play a significant role? That's a primary part of this session. So, Sanjay, could I request you to come on the stage, please? Sanjay has had a career as an engineer, and in his own words, he retired as early as he could, and so now he has moved to Pune. He has been part of PIC mentorship group right from the beginning. He is active angel investor, mentor, and has a keen interest in social entrepreneurship. Joining him, I would like to request Dr. V. Premnath. Dr. V. Premnath runs what is arguably India's best incubation center today. They have recently won the award, National Entrepreneurship Award. And in today's session, we had five of the people who had come. They were from Venture Center. So big round of applause for Dr. V. Premnath. Uh, we have Anil over here. Anil, could you come on stage, please? Anil, I made a last minute call because we had planned for an impact investor to come on board, and Anil very kindly agreed to take that place. And we wanted to get a perspective of what is it, how do impact investors see. Anil is the kind of investor who would look to invest in for profit social enterprises who would be making an impact. And joining them, I have requested two people from our big CSR group over here. I have Miss Alka Talwar from Tata Chemicals. Tata Chemicals has been active in the world of CSR for a very, very long time, and we have a long association with Ms. Talwar, and we are glad that she could make it today. Welcome, ma'am. And finally, I would like to request Ms. Priyanka Behera to come on stage. Ms. Priyanka Behera is the heads the heads the CSR Foundation for RGS Transmission Group, and she has been coming to our program every year. And I have noted that there was one CSR person who had the most detailed feedback. It was her. So I said, now we are going to make use of your time, and we'll have your feedback coming from stage instead of from the audience. So big round of applause for all the panelists. Sanjay, over to you.
Thank you, Hitendra. My job has been reduced by 80%, which is very good. He's done the introductions as well. So we thought in the next half an hour, we'll cover some ground on this topic. But before we do that, I thought I will just give 2 or 3 comments, what we have learned from the mentorship program as we have tried to work with about 20, 22 companies over the last 2 years, and total 100, 120 so far under the PIC program. Is if you take a big picture view, the innovation side of the end-to-end process has matured a lot in India, and you can actually see it, and feel the wind in your face, so to say. I must acknowledge the role of the government to a large extent by funding all kinds of incubators. I think there's over 120 incubators in India now. We are in Pune. We are proud to have some of the best incubators of the country. Like Venture Center has been consistently ranked as the #1 deep tech incubator in the country. And other incubators have come up. So that part has worked quite well and is maturing very rapidly and is very impressive. Also, if you look at the profile of people who have applied for NCSI, 5 to 6 years ago, 80-90% of the applicants used to be NGOs. What we have seen gradually a shift towards for-profit private limited companies. So for example, you saw all the participants today, there has been a big shift from what we used to see 5-6 years ago. And being a private limited company, that creates some very unique dynamics with the CSR people who want to help them succeed. So that creates some issues which hopefully we will discuss. And lastly, which is something quite encouraging as a technologist, is a lot of the innovators are bringing technology into the play, which by definition is a highly scalable model. So if you want to have nationwide impact, it's far easier to have the support of tech to scale as opposed to just a HR-driven NGO type setup, which can happen, but is a long haul HR-driven process. So the tech can help a lot. So these are the kind of macro trends we see. All our applicants are well funded. They can get a 10 lakh grant anytime. They go to a competition. So getting up to 50 lakhs for our innovators is becoming less and less of a problem. Where we are struggling now is to engage once the product is ready. How do we engage with that middle gap? So that's why we are very happy to have Dr. Premnath. I'm going to ask him to comment on how do we transition from the innovation phase done to the scaling phase. And then at the other end of the extreme, we have Anil Pranspe, who's a for-profit investor. So once a company comes to 1 crore, 2 crore of revenue, has a sustainable model, they need to raise, say, $2 million or $3 million, 20 crores, then people like Anil can grab that process. Is this gap in between that we really are struggling with, and I hope to get some insights on what role CSR can play as we grow these companies and really deliver the impact potential that they have in their innovation. So to get it started, maybe I can start with you, Dr. Premnath. You have seen probably over 100 companies or more go through Venture Center. And what issues have you seen as far as getting them scaled out? And particularly, what role do you see from your perspective that CSR can play?
Thank you, Sanjay. First of all, when you look at incubation itself, it spans a pretty wide spectrum. The way I think of it is it's a home for an innovator, right? Or an budding entrepreneur who's taking on something which is not necessarily looking very big at the moment, but will turn out to be big one day. Yeah. Now, when you're looking at some of these ideas, the earliest stage is always about uh, nurturing as many ideas as possible. It's not about trying to bet right up front about which is going to be the winner, because we know, I mean, it's well known that it's not possible to do that, and the best of people have not been able to pick winners very early on. So it's all about creating a pipeline. It's all about creating many, letting many flowers bloom, okay, and then allowing them to take it. And the cost at that stage is not very high, right? But at a later stage, as you start going further down the road, when we are talking about companies which are for-profit enterprises, they have to eventually raise money or have sales revenue, which helps them grow, right? And they have to generate profits. Now, one, I mean, the in the Indian landscape, if you look at it, you will find that if you look at the financing funding landscape, you will find that it's very heterogeneous and patchy. Okay, it is not. It's there's no there. What you need is actually a continuum. If you want people to take it all the way, you cannot also have it very high in the beginning and then nothing in later, or very high in later and nothing in the beginning, because in either case it doesn't work. If by chance you're creating a lot of ideas, but the ecosystem for scaling up is not there, what happens is people seek out other places, other ecosystems where it can be done. So it's not surprising that sometimes people end up in, say, Singapore or the US or whatever it is, right? Because they think the continuum exists over there. So the challenge for India is actually to try and keep a continuum as far as possible in selected domains where we can maintain it, and in the interest of the country, that is, and in the interest of our own markets, economy, and so on, because all industry is interlinked at the end of the day. Even big industry today cannot guess what's coming tomorrow, right? And it's where the electric vehicle business is a clear example of that. The new players seem to be taking on the market, and it's in the interest of big players sometimes to align with the new players to really be in the game, right? So in that context, I think it's for us to fill up that ecosystem, and that ecosystem, I think CSR has a role to play. Now, as far as business promotion is concerned, entrepreneurship support is concerned, I have seen CSR coming in different ways, and I just thought I'd take 1 minute or two to just list that out. So the first part is where you're creating ideas, pipeline, and nurturing many flowers, right? And we have had some like that as well. For example, Bajaj Auto has supported us, Indus Biotech has supported us. There are many others who have done it in different ways. The second category is where you're looking at pilots, data generation, proving claims, validation, and so on. You would have noticed that today's presentation, several of them mentioned that as things which they need help with. The third category is more to do with the market adoption and rolling out products and so on. And usually, large companies are CSR groups are very interested in that because they can show immediate impact. You know, uh, you can say serve so many women or so many children and so on when you're rolling out a product, right? So it seems as a easy or a low hanging fruit for many CSR options. But then there are others also which I think we should keep in mind. One is just building ecosystem assets. Like when you fill up these gaps, you're doing that as well. And lately we are seeing CSR groups looking at that as well. For example, we are trying to build a continuum for medtech in Venture Center. And of course, there are many health related problems which have to be solved. And we have had support from companies. For example, Bajaj has helped us there. International Biotech Park has given us CSR support. And then there are other aspects which have to do with credibility and branding, and also to do with mentoring, training, and corporate run accelerators or led accelerators, or at least supported accelerators. So there are some dimensions like this, and there is a couple of other things I just want to point out, which is got to do with corporates even eventually looking at themselves as potential customers or suppliers, whichever way it is. And the last angle, which is very important to social innovation, is this problem of painkillers versus vitamins. You know, when you're talking about social innovation, very often we are talking about themes which are desirable but are not pressing problems for people. At that point, it's not like a painkiller which you have to take immediately to solve your headache. you know these are good to do things, right? Now the question is, we know that it's good to do. How do you convert that vitamin into a painkiller is the question, right? In the sense, how do you create that desirable thing into a compulsory or a one is the government. You saw that the government banned plastics, and immediately there is an economy around it, right? There's a pull, market pull. Similarly, when corporates decide that no, we will not accept something, but this is what is the standards we are going to set, which by the way they'll have to do to align with international standards, it again makes it into a painkiller. So these are different ways that people could look at it. Of course, there are the temptation is to go towards market adoption and rollout, and which aligns with the theme of scaling up that we are talking about right now. But this is the spectrum of things that CSR support can be directed towards, and I hope we can do all of it. Because I think at the end of the day, it's an ecosystem play, in the sense that the richer our ecosystem, the more we will create, and the more economic opportunities we create for everybody, the better for everybody else as well. So I think we have to take a larger and a little bigger view of things when we are talking about supporting businesses and for-profit enterprises. So I'll stop here with that.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful. And I can relate to some of our experiences. Last year, we had an innovator who has built a bamboo pen and created employment, tribal employment. And the pen was priced at 15 rupees, and he was trying to compete with a 10 rupee Chinese pen, and found it very difficult to actually gain any market share. It was a big painful thing. So we re-strategized and upgraded the design of the pen with laser etching branding for the companies, and pushed the product into eco-friendly hotels. So suddenly they were willing to pay $50 for a pen just to get the brand recognition that, oh, I'm doing something good, eco-friendly pen. And that's a lot more sustainable business than trying to fight for that last 1 rupee based pen. So these kind of tweaks are definitely helping. I'll now turn to Alka from Tata Chemicals. Alka, how do you see this framework where you can engage at the different phases at which these innovators are moving through? What insight can you share?
Thanks so much, Sanjay. So I'm a part of Tata Chemicals, and we've been in this space for some time. We ourselves, in fact, run a couple of social enterprises. We moved the point when we started looking at interventions that became sustainable, and was not one-off, or it is it's like good to do and help someone. Whereas when we started thinking strategically that whatever we do should be long-lasting and sustainable, that's when the shift towards what I would call a social enterprise took place. Because the thinking in the organization was that we are here today, we may divest it, move out, and will this continue, or is it going to just like so that's a motivating factor that helps the thinking or strategizing in CSR. That's one point. The other point is that there are a huge number of ideas in the market, and there are a huge number of problems. And it's an important thing is how do we link the ideas to the problem and then the scale up. That's the whole concept of impact development or so, that should happen. So our approach has been that let's look at it in two ways. We look at problem which is something that the community needs, and a problem that the community wants to earn from or is doing, and the larger country or well-to-do people are looking for it. And we saw some examples of those. The laddus, which were health products, which will go to high-end people, and others would make money out of the overall process. So that's a very critical role, and I think the CSR can really look at it. He rightly said when we talk about marketing and branding, But the critical thing before marketing and branding is the whole aspect of capacity building. Here we're talking about people in the community. Somewhere or the other, the social enterprise is linked to various elements of community, and unfortunately we tend to have this chalta hai, especially if it's a product which is made in the rural areas. We kind of look at it and say, oh, it's made in the rural areas, so you just buy it. But the whole aspect is that it should be of that quality. It should be consistent quality. It should follow timelines and seriousness of anything else that somebody is doing, and just getting that focus in the CSR space, working with the people who are working on the ground, getting that focus. I think that capacity building for a very critical and crucial element in what the NGOs have been doing and taking it forward. So when you mentioned about the fact that from the NGOs, people have moved to individual private enterprises, and the shift, I think the main reason is twofold. One is that the ability of private enterprises to raise funds for a social enterprise. Even if I myself have helped set up a social enterprise foundation called Encourage Social Enterprise Foundation, a 100% subsidiary of Tata Chemicals. Even we looking at funds, we would say only CSR funds or funds where, because obviously in a Section 8 company you cannot take out the funds out of this. So even for international impactors and other people, they do look at private enterprises. We work with ICCO. They only work with private enterprises. But CSR funds can come in critically where you're looking at group enterprises. If you're looking at farmer producer group, you're looking at self-help groups, and many funders cannot actually fund those kind of people. But if you're looking at larger social impact, here is where CSR can also play a big role. So a number of ways where CSR fund can come in. Sometimes the funds are not very large, but the network is large, and both can be leveraged for social impact. So I think that's where I would look at.
So much, Alka. Turning to Priyanka. Priyanka, in your foundation that you have, how do you engage with these new gen entrepreneurs who are tech driven, have private limited companies? How do you see them and how do you engage with them now and going forward?
So it's a very recent example only that I'll give you, that we were having a lot of issues in monitoring our activities, particularly out of station, I mean out of Pune. So we have our plants in many places, and where we run schools and health centers and all, where there are more than 400 students studying. So we were having a lot of issues in monitoring and actually seeing whether they were working the way we have envisioned the plan and all. So we were looking for a enterprise or a company who could help us in developing a software where we could see how or see and monitor them from here itself, and also generate charts and graphs so that we realize how much fund is going only into education, whether we are receiving so reasonable impact or no, the way we had thought. So we came across this one new very young entrepreneurs who have just started a enterprise like that, and they were into softwares. So they came up to help us in developing this, and you won't believe the price of it is hardly anything. So it was very interesting because we got the entire solution for our thing, and if we would have gone and done it from a bigger enterprise, I mean a bigger company, probably we would have had to pay more than 5 times what we have spent here. But we are getting the result. The two young boys are working exactly the way we have thought. The alignment is very, very. I mean, it's absolutely the way we have thought about it. So they've understood the concept. They brought us that idea. They implemented it. We are about to get live also on that. So we've made an app, database where we can collect every figure. So now if in my health center I want to from here check that how many people are being treated, so whether the doctor has come in that point of time, whether even if he's put present, whether he's actually there or no. So all that was difficult, but with this software and this app, we have been able to achieve that. And so see, for CSR perspective, as Alka ma'am also said, and Premji also said, Premnath sir also said, I also feel that all these enterprises, social enterprises, should also have a self-sustainable concept. So CSR you cannot always give them the fish. So you have to basically empower the village people or the rural people to help themselves as well. So in most of our projects, we do not just go and invest just like that. We always invest ourselves actually in every project. So we want that the people themselves also should come up with ideas and solutions with it, with the problem. Not that all the time we are only giving them the solution, pouring in money, because that actually never helps. It's a deep pothole. So money keeps on going. You can never keep exactly a limit on anything. So we have to empower all of them together, have to come down to one consensus and one thought and vision, and then only it could probably work. So the product should also be one of a kind where we require, the requirement should also be there, it should be sustainable and also viable. Like any business, maybe it is not for that kind of profitability, but it should also have that future and profitability in it, in the sense of a self-sustainable product, so that in the longer run, even if you stop giving them, the product should run, the company should run. So that is what.
That's very interesting. I will have a follow up before I come to Anil. I have a follow up with Alka and Priyanka. Is what we have seen is, as we try to scale up through our mentorship program, the NCSI participants, is in some cases we have found very good traction with CSR, let's say office of a corporation, but in many cases we have struggled. And partly the reason is that it's a very wide space. You rely a lot on personal contacts, and we are fortunate that PIC members have a very wide network, so we don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call to open a door here or there. But to be honest, we have struggled to do it sustainably, repeatedly, reliably. Each innovator has been sort of, go to war for that on behalf of that innovator. So could you share with our innovators one or two power tips, if you will, on what is the best way for them to engage with you?
So if you look at any CSR program of a company, most companies would have what is called their area of interest, and that's the critical thing to look at. Area of interest. Some people work in education, some people work on the medical space, some people work on conservation, and so on and so forth. So obviously, one of the tip is please do look at what is really important and critical for that organization, and what is that organization about. If I'm from Tata Chemicals, what is Tata Chemicals about? Tata Chemicals has a vision which says serving society through science. So it may be something to do with science could work with there, serving society, and so looking at what the organization is about, what they've been doing is a very critical thing to look at when you approach. So this is one tip I would say. And it's important because, of course, there are so many issues. How does one pinpoint what to do? And everybody is prioritizing, and rightly so, because everybody does that in their business, in their personal space, and so do CSR people do exactly the same as other people do. So I think that's if you get the connect right, this is what if you're doing, and if it builds on it, it works tremendously fine. For instance, we have a social enterprise called Okai Center for Empowerment. We work with rural women, and we produce handicrafts and stuff. It's a last year we did 4 crores of business just on Okai itself. It is a social enterprise because it's a trust. It's half of the trustees are the rural women themselves. Of course, we are also there to help out, and we put professional people to take it forward. But if you're in this space which is linked or related to, say, the same enterprise that we are doing, then it's much easier to link up, scale up, take it forward, or or do, because then we are in the same vision that we have established.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Alka ma'am, because every company actually has an area of interest, and like in RSB, we also particularly like working for girl, children, and women empowerment in that sector. So also for more indigenous and sustainable products, like I remember last time when Hiten was suggesting my suggestions that I had given in the forum was on a person, an innovator had invented something called on something on pesticides. So how they could uh, you basically more, I mean, give more yeah, something like that, correct. So I was just suggesting that why in the first place we do anything work on pesticides. So because my suggestion was we should, in our kind of country where we are already flooded with all these foreign, I mean, West products, where we want to get rid of pesticides. So why we should work on more of products which is more sustainable, where farmers can actually get it from their household or from their day-to-day, I mean, livestock and all that. So instead of investing in pesticides and other, where it's where you'll go on needing more and more money and more technologies and all that. So that was my suggestion that time. And yeah, so I mean, if there is any project like that, we would definitely love to help. And we have never actually come across such a aligned thing, frankly. So
I think it seems definitely from your comments, there's an opportunity for a market maker sort of a role where people have areas of interest, people are innovating in areas of interest, but it's an inefficient process to do the matchmaking. So perhaps we will think about that in the PIC if there is a way to make this more efficient matchmaking. So the ecosystem, as Dr. Premnath was mentioning very nicely, we need to build these ecosystem assets that could make it overall very efficient. So I'll turn to Anil now. Anil, how, from an investor perspective, at what point are you willing to jump in and scale these enterprises? I know there's a lot of people who presented today who are looking for 2 crores, 3 crores, that type of investment to go forward. So if you could share your insights and thoughts on this, and particularly companies that have had branded CSR backing, and so how does that help in your valuation process?
So there's no single number or stage that I can point to. Different investors invest at different stages of a company, which is obvious. But one thing to know is that even very established funds, for-profit funds, also do invest in really small, tiny companies, even the kind of small companies when they are small that Dr. Premnath would invest in. So there is a big overlap now amongst investors as to so there's not a very well defined and very well entrenched silos anymore. The other important thing to remember is that every investor invests and hopes to make money by selling his or her stake to a bigger investor. So it is important to know which investor to approach based on where you are at. So for example, I happen to have to be a co-founder in an LED Ventures lighting company. It's a technology company. 3-4 years ago, investing in a company like me or getting investment from a VC would have been much easier, right? Because the big days or sexy days of LED lighting were still not there at that time. Getting investment into that kind of a company today when LED lights are becoming mainstream is very difficult for the exact same company, right? With a few incremental innovations, you just don't have a scope of getting investment in it. You have to have a very radical innovation into LED lighting today in order to get VC money. And the reason simply is that the VC that is interested in investing in such a company is thinking that when this company goes to the next level to raise bigger money, which will be 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, will this company be attractive at that point in time for a bigger investor? If the company is already past the stage for that bigger investor, then the investor is probably not going to be interested in it. This is especially true for investors who are investing in tech companies. So both with Infuse Ventures and our new fund, Bharat Innovation Fund, we have actually all our portfolio companies except one have been pre-revenue companies. So there's no, you need to get to 1 crore or 2 crore kind of revenues. Uh, Tech has a long life. There is a lot of technology risk. And there are investors who actually thrive on investing and taking that technology risk, actually. And so there's no one answer to that. It depends upon what kind of venture it is, which investors you are approaching. You can absolutely be smarter about it. Don't waste your time uh, approaching or chasing investors that based on your company or what stage it is at, uh, don't or not going to be having much interest. So we get funded or bombarded by so many proposals which is simply not appealing, given the stage of the company or what we look for. So, in general, if it is a high tech kind of company, I think a whole bunch of even for profit investors will be interested in looking at it even very early stage. If it is somewhat low tech, but probably tech enabled kind of venture, I think many investors will probably like to see whether there is some of the risk in terms of market adoption or customer adoption have been actually addressed. uh, these companies also tend to need a whole bunch of processes. They could be distribution networks, they could be a whole bunch of human centric processes which are kind of tech enabled, but are those processes somewhat established? And the investors want to see some evidence of that as well. There I think waiting probably for a half a crore or crore kind of revenue, seeing some traction makes a lot more sense. Obviously, if you are going to raise 2-3 million or so, then you need to have more traction. Your product needs to be pretty much there, unless for example, we invest recently in a couple pharma companies where it is in very early stage, but the life of these companies is like next 10-15 years or so. And so as a result, even investing $2-3 million when there is no revenue, it's something that investors will do. Just your last point, corporate CSR backing to companies. The way we would look at it, and you need to understand this well, is a lot of financial investors will be very wary of investing in ventures that have a very strong corporate backing. The reason is that we want flexibility in how this company will move, and should not be beholden to what the big investor or the big supporter wants that company to do, right? So you need to be a little bit careful about that as to what kind of agreements you have, what kind of deal you have, quote unquote, with the CSR partner or sponsor. Uh, Having said that, there are certainly a whole bunch of good that you can get by the CSR sponsor. There, I think what the last question where we talked about, Alka talked about, a much more strategic angle to CSR that the corporates are starting to adopt, and especially with with the law, company law, kind of mandating CSR. I think both these ladies actually talked about a much more strategic way of investing in CSR. That is something that in going forward, we think we will see more and more. Companies will be much more strategic about investing in CSR. And that is something that I think will figure into investors' decisions as well. So, because we know that it is not just money, it is not just opening doors by making phone calls. If you can actually open doors in terms of a customer access within the group, that is going to be much more important. So, for example, if you are developing a mechanical gadget that is going to increase the efficiency of an engine, I would like that company to be backed more by Mr. Pradeep Bhargav than Ms. Alka Talwar. You know, nothing against any of these. It's just that that is a much more strategic fit that we see coming from Cummins as opposed to Tata Chemicals, and I think that kind of strategic fit is going to help the company scale as well as reap rewards much faster.
That's excellent. So I'm going to open it up for a couple of questions before we wrap up. So are there any questions? Just highlight whom the question is directed to.
People coming to you, suppose hypothetically you have about three of these CSR types or NGOs, call them what you will, who are in line with your corporate, what can I say, your corporate goal, right, of Tata Chemicals. If there are three of them, what factors would make you choose one over the other?
Actually, that's quite simple. You would then look at the area of operations.
Yeah.
Where you in your strategy have decided that this is where, because nobody wants to go very thin, right? So you don't have impact if you're like really thin, and so you would have, even if you're doing a nutrition program, you will say, okay, my program should scale up, across the country, but I'm going to start here, and this is the area where I will work. If both match, or they match specifically a gap that we've been trying to fill, that's where we would give the first preference. I think that's where it falls.
One of our innovators. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, yesterday you were mentioning about a gazette that has notification that has come up that CSRs can now invest in R&D as well. So can you just highlight that point?
Yes, so I think most of you know that 11th of October, the government released the updated CSR after the initial, I would say, mess of bringing in criminality and all that into it. It is all cleared up. And a lot of new opportunities for investment have been allowed under the CSR model, including in incubators for R&D. So maybe I should ask Priyanka how she sees this new rules that have come in. Are they going to change some thinking from your side on areas you might potentially consider getting into that you haven't traditionally?
We have actually majorly always focused on education and health, and slowly diversifying it to other things as well. But primarily, we are still focusing on that, but trying to zero in onto more of behavioral change projects till now. So if anything really striking comes across, then in one of the last programs, we had come across one person who was making a sanitary napkin with the tribal women in the villages. That was very interesting, and in fact, I was going to ask you guys to send me the link of that person because I happened to misplace it. So something like that could be, would be interest of to us also.
So, yes, Dr. Prerna.
Okay. I had a couple of points. The first thing is that traditionally many of our corporates have been focused on certain themes which were aligned with previous goals, right? And things like social enterprises, incubation never featured in those. But I think increasing, the previous amendment, they had introduced incubation as specific category along with education, healthcare, and so on and so forth. In the recent one, they have just expanded for incubation to various other categories besides academic institutions, and the R&D funding is little focused on SDGs. Okay, these are two different things: the incubators and the separately R&D done focused on SDGs. Okay, now I just wanted to point out that, see, uh, uh, corporates of course have their own agenda, they'll have their own areas of interest, but I think we need to take a larger view when it comes to social innovation and entrepreneurship. Very often one is tempted to look only at immediate impact, right? It's convenient, it is easy, it's easy to measure. You don't have to take too many chances, so it's tempting for everybody to do that. But the bottom line is, if let's take simple examples. For example, wouldn't you say that a simple mobile phone has had such enormous impact on everybody's life, right? And if we were to ignore that and just focus on only certain things, which I have nothing against, but you have to invest in those things also, right? Or a vaccine, for example, imagine the enormous impact it has. So I think there is a need to relook what we as a society decide to invest in. And I think some of these entrepreneurs are looking at domains which have longer term impact. Now, as far as social enterprises are concerned, any entity which is creating a surplus of some kind through revenues or whatever it is likely to also be able to scale up and be sustainable, and that is attractive for many corporates as well as a thought. Because, and there's also another angle to it. At the end of the day, all these corporates started off as single entrepreneurs working on ideas which nobody believed in, right? So they can identify with these other entrepreneurs as fellow travelers on the path, which I think sometimes gets lost as the organization grows bigger. But at some point, I think the founders have to step in to say that, this is important because that's where I began, okay? And it's not the regular kind of funding that we are looking at out here. And that's happening, by the way. So we are seeing that. The only thing is that that comes at the highest level, in the sense that thought process is initiated at the highest level. So I hope these rules will help, but I think at the end of the day, it is going to be commitment to longer term, sustainable, scalable value creation in society, and ecosystem assets which help create those, that will bring more support to social enterprises in India.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that for some reason we tend to get limited by the CSR definition of the government, but it's social responsibility of the organization, which is the more important thing. So the fund can come from any part of the organization. It doesn't need to come from CSR. So in many cases where the funding has been done for incubation or for research or for comes from another part of the organization, may not come from CSR fund possibility. So I think one should look at the organization as a whole and look at what are the opportunities available.
Wonderful. I think Hitendra is winking at me to wrap it up. So we're running. We could discuss this topic, but we will take this forward in PIC with some couple of discussions. I think the 2 or 3 big takeaways that we will follow up on. One is we need an end-to-end smooth ecosystem. We cannot have a road with too many potholes. Then we find that people are not able to be most successful in the ecosystem. I think that's a very good point Dr. Premnath has made us aware of. The second one that has come out is that CSRs themselves have to transform and take a lot more strategic view of CSR. As Madam said, strategic CSR is going to become really very important, how the whole program is looked at from the corporate side of it. And lastly, I think the point about an efficient process or a way to connect people, different people in the ecosystem, particularly for innovators, social entrepreneurs, where some more efficient market maker type of mechanisms are needed. I think that could really build as Dr. Premnath called it, ecosystem asset that could accelerate the journey of many, many companies. So with that, we'll wrap it up. And I thank the panel very much and kindly request you to give them a big hand, please. Thank you. I hand it over to Hitendra.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, all the panelists. So the good part is all your votes. I hope every one of you has given your vote already, and my team has done the counting. I've been told they have found out who the winner are, and we are going to have the winner check distribution shortly. But before that, I wanted to take 5 minutes to talk about our own journey of Social Innovation Lab at PIC. And it all started with the call by Dr. Mashelkar to convert the movement of NCSI. It used to be a single day event which we used to do before into a movement. And since then we have branched out to do more activities around it. The most significant of that is the social enterprise mentorship program that we do, which is where, as you have heard before, we work with early revenue, pre-revenue, for-profit social enterprises and help them scale up from about 5 to 6 lakhs in revenue to getting to a couple of crores in revenue. Uh, so we right now have three main programs, and we're continuously looking to add more activities. So what you saw today is NCSI, which is our scouting platform. And as Dr. Mashelkar said in the morning, we got application from more than 30 states of India, all over India, and we have selected. We had a long list, and then we had a short list. So NCSI is a scouting platform where we find the social enterprise that we want to work with. Then we have the mentorship program. And last year we started something called a shared service center for social enterprises, where 10 of the crucial services that a social enterprise needs in its early stage of journey are available at a discounted or even a free price. So all the people who become part of the mentorship program, in addition to the mentorship and guidance, gets access to 50,000 rupees worth of services that are offered from PIC for the social enterprises. So these are the three programs that we have right now. We are working on another program about which you're going to hear very shortly. So that's what the Social Innovation Lab does on the activity side of it. On the policy research side of it, remember PIC is still primarily a research think tank. So we work with the various government ministry on social enterprise policy, and in fact we work with skill development and entrepreneurship ministry on drafting the social enterprise policy for India. And those of you who follow the budget notification keenly, you would have seen the notification that had come out, which was about setting up of stock exchanges for social enterprises. That was one of the recommendation that came out from the report, and the ministry acknowledges for that. So now we are in the process of getting into the nitty gritty of how those stock exchanges can be set up. So that roughly is what Social Innovation Lab does. Before coming to the prize, and I know I'm taking the moment to build up, I see people who were the presenters last year over here, and I want them to talk about their journey of being in this mentorship program. It is important for two reasons. There are many of you who want to become mentors and would get a sense of what does it entail to become a mentor, and those of you who have presented today and are considering becoming part of the PIC program, you will get to see what all this is about. So I see Boni sitting over here. Could we have the mic given to Boni, please? So Boni, you have a couple of minutes to talk about how the mentorship program helped you.
Yeah, sure. A very good evening, everyone. It was really a wonderful day here at the NCSA, exactly a year after I stood on this podium pitching. I got a chance to interact with a lot of you guys, and some of you I missed, so I'll be happy to see if I can interact with the rest of you as well. So a brief about myself and the work that we do. Um, we have a startup called Trestle Labs, where the vision of the company was to make world's resources inclusive for everyone. And the mission with which we started this company was, how can we enable real-time access to anything that is printed, handwritten, or digital to a person who's blind and visually impaired. So that is what we started off with. Eventually last year, going back a year, where I stood on this podium, basically to solve this, we have two products. One is a physical device that can scan and read out printed and handwritten text in audio, and the other was mobile application that could read out digital content. So the product was called Kibo, the application was called Kitab. So that's what we pitched. And then coming back to the mentorship part of things, when we were really lucky to have Sanjay as mentor. And just to give you an example, of how the mentorship happened. Every Thursday at 10 o'clock, we used to get on a call, discuss the health of the company, status of where we are, and we used to discuss small little things. As I remember one of the conversations with Sanjay in which he said, Bonnie, it's good that you have kept Kibo and Kitab as two different products, but that's fine today. But when you are scaling up, you need to maintain two separate brand identities. People will often get confused what Kibo is or Kitab is. So while it might look good today, things might not be that easy handling it out. So the intention of sharing this thing was small little things like these, which we as being innovators could not see, but as mentors who comes with a third person, you can help share and improve us. So that was it. What we learned was, how do we look beyond the product that we have built, look beyond the service that we are offering through the product. Through the look beyond fundamental that we have learned through constant it's not like one call you get this and he tells you and yeah, this is the magic moment. No, you keep on hearing this every now and then through different examples. So how we got to know, I mean, understood about how should we take it away of हम बोलते थे we are empowering visually impaired people. No, you are not empowering visually impaired people. You are empowering visually impaired people to empower themselves and their communities, because that person will get empowered. He'll go back, talk about your products, and in turn impact the whole audience. So that was very soft little thought process that get instilled in the core entrepreneur in you, which we had the fortune of. So we built the product, we reiterated the product. Many of you would have got this. The first one, if you look at Akshita Sasdeva, and that's us. So the photograph of the product that you see is what we had back then, and this is the form factor of the product that we have now. So we have come a long way, come far in this journey, in which in June 2019 we launched our product for a pan-India sales and operation. Pan-India sales and operation, yeah. And I'm happy to share that within the 4.5 months of time that our products have been on field, our platform has been used by over 8,000 visually impaired people worldwide, scanning over 250,000 plus documents with an overall engagement time, that's the platform engagement time, in excess of 1 million minutes. So that is the impact, and that is the adoption that we have received through the product. And like he keeps mentioning, technology as an enabler to take it to millions of people. So it's been a really productive platform that through NCS I got in touch with Sanjay. And this mentorship is not for 4 months or 6 months. Your friends, family, we still keep calling him, asking for his guidance, and the PIC community in general, be it Girish sir or Hitendra sir himself. So that's the family that you build. So I'm happy. I'm really, really happy to be a part of it. Thank you, Hitendra. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was looking to have one more story, but this person is stuck somewhere, and this would have been. This person had developed a solution for what is the most topical problem right now, which is crop burning, and how crop residue could be converted into. Ah, there he is. You come just in time. So, can I just shock you even more by asking you to come to the stage? So that's Shubham Singh. Shubham won the prize in the rural category last year, and he has created a solution where crop residue can be converted into. Then it was a wood substitute product, and under the mentorship program, it has gone through multiple iterations. So I'll let Shubham talk about it. Show me a couple of minutes to talk about your mentorship
I
program.
think I'll just cut it like really short because I just like went.
Yeah, I know.
I think it has been so. We had like a 6 months mentoring program. It was a very learning experience. Giri is here, one of my main mentor. And so we worked around with different domains of entrepreneurship, be it product market fit, getting some contacts with certain customers. Dr. Premnath is also here, one of my very key mentor. So just wanted to say that, like mentors, like especially being an early stage startup, mentors are so important, like not from like teaching us how to fish, but also why to fish, which fish to eat, everything in all different domains which we can think of. And they are the bestest friends, and as well as our best critic also, digging deeper into the problem. In short, like, so mentors are like Google for us whenever we have any problem and we find solution. So thank you once again. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the mentorship and hoping to build from these learnings towards a great enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubham. That's very well taken. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And Anil, you would have interacted with another innovator down below where this they are making reusable sanitary pad. The innovator who had presented it last year, they were not there, and the team member was relatively new. So we are not going to get into details of it. But Anil, the third mentor that we have, he worked in a detailed manner on helping them improve the product significantly, including connecting them to the best manufacturers and upgrading the product. So, um, to give you a flavor of it, it's not just about the technical part of mentorship. It's not about how to get the product right. A lot of time is spent in just getting the chemistry right, and we have such a wonderful mentor group that sometimes they come back and say, yeah, this one is not working with me, why don't you have a go at it? And there's no ego involved in that part of the process. And sometimes when you do the change and then suddenly the whole equation starts working. So that was the social enterprise mentorship program in glimpse for you, Dr. Kilkar. That was something which you had asked us to start 2 years ago. So this is the result that we have got for you now. uh, I know you all are waiting to hear who the winners are, so I'm not going to take much more time to announce the winner. But before I do that, could I request Dr. Vijay Kelkar to come on stage, please? And could I request PIC Director Prashant Girbane to come on stage, please? Prashant is also a very dear friend, but I'm calling PIC Director. Okay, so who are the guesses? We are first going to give away the check for the tribal category winner. Any guesses? Any word from the audience? I think audience is just okay. So the winner is Clavino, and could I call upon Motura Rajendra Prasad to come and collect the check, please? Big round of applause. Congratulations, Rajendra. Thank you, sir. For the urban category, the winner is Mayur Shetty. Could you come up on the stage, please? And for the rural category, could I have Mr. Partha Pratim Dashpa Patra to come up and collect his winner's check? Congratulations, Partha. Thank you. Uh, for rest of the innovator, before I, the winners is not a. It was just a check to make sure our delegates were awake and they were listening to the presentation. The mentorship program is open to all the people who presented today, and this is, like I said, just a recognition of what the delegates today thought was the best innovation. Okay. So, with this, we are coming to the end of our program. Like I already mentioned, every year we are trying to add something new, and this is one of the things that we have decided to build on. Is during the course of mentorship, we figured out that there are many connects, there are many leverages that we could have accessed within the PIC community, outside the wider PIC community. So we are going to start a series of program, which we had done before in a different format, but we are going to start something called Social Innovation Forum, which is going to be a platform where we are going to explicitly reach out to community people, all of you who are here, all of the people who are at different part of the session, and saying, here is this wonderful work that's being done. Is there a way in which you can help take this work forward? Our objective in the mentorship program is to achieve the kind of scale that in venture world is often described as 10x, 50x, or 100x. So what we will be looking to do is, we PIC is a network of network. So we have 400 members, individual members. We have 53 institutional members, and I think there is a lot of power that is lying in that network. And all of you are connected with that network, and all of you have a lot of leverage. So that's a new program that we will be looking to start. And simultaneously we are looking to work something on the not-for-profit side of it. I have Mr. Kotwal, who's here, who was a lead author for the paper on NGO governance, and that's a paper that we had published. And we are developing something as an outcome of that paper. So I'm not going to talk about it now. I would rather get it done and then tell you what it was. But there is something that we are working on the not for profit side of it. What we are doing in this area is largely for profit social enterprise that we are looking to support. So, no, it's wonderful to have Prashant over here because I know that there is a last layer protection that's available. Um, First of all, I would want to thank the partners, National Innovation Foundation and TIS. Dr. Vipin Kumar couldn't be here, but he made sure that his colleague was there. Likewise, from TIS, we had Professor Satyajit Majumdar and we had another professor in the audience. Uh, while we are looking for application, and every year our criteria keep on getting tougher and tougher, so you can imagine it's difficult to find application from same set of pool. So every year we carry out an outreach exercise of connecting with more than 200 institutions all over India where you could have potential such applications. So I would want to thank all of those institutions. Specific mention I would want to make of Venture Center, Bhau Institute, Digital Impact Square Foundation, Unlimited India, National Innovation Foundation, BAF, where we keep on getting regularly good quality application for our program. Uh, there are mentors who are involved not only in the mentorship program, they spend a lot of time in providing early stage feedback on the long list of applications. So you can imagine they actually went through 100 plus forms and saying this makes sense, this does not make sense. And they were also joined by my dear friend Amit, who's not here, Amit Bhargava. So they helped us create a short list. And then that shortlist was sent to a 7 member jury. So I'll take a minute to quickly read them out. Dr. Vipin Kumar from NIF, Professor Satyajit Majumdar, whom you saw, Mr. Pradeep Bhargava, President MCCIA, Commodore Anand Khandekar, Pradeep Lokhande, both of whom were session chair today. Ms. Kishori Gadre, she was one of the earliest evangelist of social innovation program in PIC, and we are glad that she's back in Pune and she has started working with tribal department again. So we hope to give stronger fillip to our tribal part of the program through her cooperation. And Professor Sharyu Bhakre, who helped us adjudicate the process as well as also provided us a lot of her students who worked as interns during this conference. I would like to thank the delegates, the CSR community members, the impact investors, the accelerator incubators, PIC trustees, PIC members, PIC network organization. Thank you very much for coming. Members of media, audience, it's wonderful and heartening to see you here in such large numbers at this part of the programs. Thank you very much. And last but not the least, the team that worked behind to make this program happen. And I'm going to talk about rest of the team. And since I belong to Prashant's team, so I'm going to let Prashant talk about me. Thank you.
Stay here. Stay here. No, thanks. I think I was just looking at time, and there's still 2 minutes left. It's 5:30, so I thought I should talk for 2 minutes. Right? We started at 10. That's what we promised. We promised that we'll conclude by 5:30, and there is still a minute and a half. I think I'll just want to mention two things, Hitendra. One is the list of people that Hitendra mentioned about. It just feels wonderful to have all of these people coming together for that one purpose. There is somebody who studied in MIT Boston, who created one of the best incubation centers in the country that's most awarded. There is somebody who studied in IIT Bombay, ran companies, sold company, bought companies, creating new models. There is somebody who spent more than 20 years in Europe and came back just to kind of help entrepreneurship. There is somebody who worked in likes of Procter & Gamble and other companies in branding, but now wanting to help entrepreneurs to do this. There is somebody who's been directors on some of these listed companies and just want to make sure that MD on listed companies just want to make sure that spends time with some of these innovators. When so much of energy comes together, right, wanting to do something good, and if you're around it, it feels so wonderful. That's all that I wanted to mention. The ones who enabled all of it, who started it, that started with Dr. Kelkar, Dr. Mashilkar, Professor Gupta. And for the last couple of years, the one who has been putting it all together, that's Hitendra Singh. Hit it up for him, and we'll conclude the program with that. Thank you.
Friends, I noticed there's still 30 seconds are left, so. No, I just wanted to mention that by this morning's winner, has so much moved many of us that one of our institute member, MCCI, wanted me to mention to our group that they have agreed to take a challenge that by 2nd October 2020, the entire manholes of PCMC area would be serviced by the robot.
With this, we come to the end of our program. Thank you, Dr. Kilpo, for that wonderful update. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.